are some exceptions to this, but for the most part, even if you are extremely talented, you probably won't make it in the industry if you're not particularly good looking. This is especially true for women. Unfortunately, I think men get a bit more leeway. If you play an instrument in a band, it probably won't matter, but if you're a lead or solo artist, looks are almost always essential regardless of talent. You may get a one-hit wonder song, but other than that, no label will invest in you if you're not attractive enough. I think there's some truth to what they're saying, and I don't like it. But like marketing, right? So when because there's actually a lot of attractive people in the music industry or in the acting industry that don't have a ton of talent. Okay, but they're marketable. And so they'll get all the resources, they'll give them what talent they can, or they'll auto-tune them, or they will literally, they'll just tell you like, oh, this is the talent, and because we're all dingbats, not all of us, but because there's so many dingbats, we're just like, oh, that's the talent, okay, like, there's some truth to this, okay, and I don't like it. Let's see. Talent can only take you so far. Unfortunately, the music industry is a business, and businesses want to make money, and what sells? Good looks. Now this person comes in with meanwhile, Mick Jagger has to be one of the ugliest faces I've ever seen. Right, we have like Mick Jagger, we have Steven Tyler, we have, well, I'll continue reading their list. Ozzy Osbourne wasn't much to look at when he was younger either. Meanwhile, I saw an old comment on the Agonist video years back saying Alyssa was wasting herself in metal because with looks like that she could do pop and make a lot of money, right? Even just the different genres. It depends on what genre you're into. The more commercial you are, the more superficial it is. If you want to be a pop star, then yeah, it's something like 60% looks, 40% connections. What percent talent? Wasn't it Chris Rock who said that if Mick Jagger drove a cab, he'd be the ugliest man on the planet? Don't feel bad. Mick is a vibe, okay? He does not care. I know him. No, I really doubt he cares. He knows what he looks like. He's a vibe. I don't even know if he was a good person or not. I'm trying to think of from what I've heard about Mick. I haven't heard too much bad about Mick personally, but Steven Tyler. Do you want to go down the Steven Tyler rabbit hole? That's a mess. LOL, someone also said something similar about Jay-Z working at McDonald's. Well, like we said, guys, get some extra leeway there. Because remember when that Susan Boyle made it big and everybody was like, oh, she's so unattractive, which was the rudest thing. Like, why is that even? Okay, this one says that Brie Larson gets way too much hate as an actor. I think I like most. I don't do the superhero stuff, but there's some older movies that Brie Larson was in that I really liked her in. What was that one? Oh God, I read the book, and I don't think it was The Glass Castle, but it might have been something Castle or something Glass. I read the book and then watched the movie. That was really good. And there's another one where she's working at like a kids camp. That was really good. There's a few really good Brie Larsons. Anyway, if you set aside her performance in the MCU as Captain Marvel, she's pretty great in almost everything. She's in Room, 21 Jump Street, separating the art from the artist can become questionable at times. I think it really should apply in this scenario. If you dislike her as a person, that's totally legitimate. She's not a super likable person. What did she do? I'm confused. I haven't heard this. What did she do? Especially considering the way she comes off in interviews, public appearances, etc. But calling her a bad actor makes it look like you're a dumb 12-year-old who only watches Marvel movies. I don't know what she did. Is she just awkward at interviews? Because that doesn't make me not like a person. Because I would be extremely awkward in an interview too. So, Room was so fucking good. I loved her in that movie, and she won an Oscar for that performance. If you love Room, watch Short Term 12. Brie is incredible in it. Oh, maybe Short Term 12 is like the camp I was thinking about. It's fuzzy. I don't remember. Short Term 12 has a really special place in my heart. Short Term 12 is legit incredible. Shout out to the young Lakeith Stanfield as well. Oh, Lakeith was in that. Man, it made me ugly cry and I was not ready. Room, the movie was great, and there's always that one guy. The book was so much better and in depth. All told from the little boy's point of view. If you liked Room and want more to the story, I suggest reading the book. Brie gets the hate that the writers deserved. I love how succinctly this was put. Well, I think it's partially her fault as far as interviews go. That is the banger of a line. It's crazy how many people you could say that about too, like everyone not named Ewan McGregor in a Star Wars movie made after 1983 to star Liam Neeson McDiarmid. Yeah, that sucks if you're an actor and you get really whack lines. You'd be like, I don't want to say that. Like that's, and you probably know as you're saying it, like this is not going to be received well. This is bad writing, and you're stuck. You're in a contract, and you're just supposed to do your job. Okay, let's do this next one. There is not a single celebrity that you should be surprised to hear was involved in harassment or assault. Celebrities live in a different world, and they've shown time and time again that access to power makes harassment and assault easy to do, usually easy to get away with. Well, what about Keanu Reeves? He's amazing. Doesn't matter. You don't actually know him. You have no idea how his actual personality compares to his public persona. Well, but so-and-so donated $20 million to charity. That's a tax write-off. You think that affects how somebody acts behind closed doors. You can't know if someone is a good person from their public image. And you should never be surprised to learn that someone is in a position of power abused it in an immoral way. It says Weird Al is innocent. And somebody else said Weird Al is ironically the least weird celebrity. He's weird for Hollywood in that he's not a monster. Rest in peace. I still can't believe Madonna had him shot down like that. I don't know what this is about. It said it's not news. It happened 40 years ago. Weird Al is one of the very few celebrities I would legitimately be surprised about. I don't know what happened with the Madonna Weird Al. Does anybody know what that was? This is all the comments are about Weird Al. To quote comedian Christopher Titus, if tomorrow headline reads Tom Hanks punches nun, your first question is going to be, what the hell did that nun do to Tom Hanks? No, Tom Hanks got involved. Not involved. Tom Hanks got, I think, QAnon, didn't he? like when all that stuff was. So I don't know. I don't know these people, so I can't be like, oh no. But I do know that QAnon has their own agendas, and there was a podcast about getting to the bottom of QAnon, and I never listened to it. Did they ever get to the bottom of who was behind all that? Somebody said, I don't feel like Betty White ever R-worded anyone. And then somebody said, I don't know, on the Golden Girls, she effed her husband to death. I don't remember that. I used to watch Golden Girls, but Keanu is an interesting example because pretty much everything he does is behind closed doors. And on the odd occasion, some paparazzi or other gets enough of a glimpse to publish something. On one hand, I absolutely think he's right to avoid the press like the plague. Aggressive strangers get up to call your ass with a flashlight every day of the week. It's such a weird and awful place of fame. Price of fame. If anything, I respect him more for not feeding into it. On the other hand, that relatively secrecy means you could get away with some serious if you wanted to. Kind of like how Spacey kept his sexuality out of the public eye for years, got caught forcing himself on an underage boy, and then tried to come out of the closet as a deflection. That doesn't mean Keanu is up to anything, or that I have any reason not to trust him. But if he wanted to get away with some terrible crap, I think he could. Yeah, the Kevin Spacey thing sucked because I was a big time Kevin Spacey fan, and he could have just came out. Like that's means nothing to me one way or the other. But he was accused of horrible things like across the board, and yes, he was. They were all dropped. But the way that he apologized to the one, I think it was was it underage? I don't remember. And he was like, if that happened, I'm sorry. If that happened, I'm sorry. So you're still gaslighting. When you say, if that happened, I'm sorry, you're still gaslighting. My stomach is growling. What do you mean, if it happened? You know it happened. Or maybe they don't. If they don't know that it happened and they're not sure if it happened, that means you're out there acting like that 24/7. Like, well, I don't know. I do that kind of stuff all the time. I don't really remember you. You know? That says a lot as a way to apologize. Okay. The next one. Life is made better because it ends. This one isn't a doomer post. I recently lost a few people close to me, and during their grieving process, when other people mentioned they wished everyone lived forever, I thought that relatively short lifespan we have is actually a great thing. If possible, knowing everything ends makes me really grateful to be able to see the hills and the rivers, to waste evenings consuming media, to go on trips and share good times with friends. I would not make the most of my time if it lasted forever. There would be no onus or desire to actively enjoy and make the most of something that never ends. True. Somebody said, have you by chance watched The Good Place? Jason had it all figured out. Such a great show. Also, listen to the interviews with the creator. I think if we were immortal, we would get bored. After you were over the age of 100,000 years, you'd probably have done it all. Yeah, we probably would get bored if there was no end, but I do think it's too short. If we could get an extra, 40 years, that might be the sweet spot. Long-term prison sentences make no sense. Anything over 20 years, and I'm sure it could be less, is absolutely silly. You lock someone up for that amount of time and sometimes it's impossible. It's possible to get a sentence which can be extended so the person is still deemed at risk. So Anders Breivik, I don't know who that is, for example, can get out after 21 years, but it's highly unlikely he'll ever get out. So they just reconsider at 21 years. Norway is a good example. Varg Vikernes served a maximum and left the prison as a wonderful person. He's not a piece of... He wants to wipe out entire non-white population at all. So they fixed him. Does Norway have better programs to rehab people? And I don't know who he is, too. I don't know who these Norway criminals are. But they must be like the big, like the criminals of note over there. Let me know if you have any Norway insider knowledge who those people were. I think there should be a de-escalation for eventual release. If you're an offender serving 20 years, you should spend the last few years in a lower security prison and your final 2 years in more rehab centers where you're being taught things you need to know about the outside world and make a plan for when you're released. They could set it up like a little town, obviously, still with guards, and prisoners can work shifts and earn a bit of cash that's put aside for when they're released. Schedules are a bit more relaxed and they're allowed more freedom because it looks and functions more like a small town than a prison. They won't suffer such a shock when they're released. It's the cost, and we don't have plans to make things better over here. Something got in the way of that in almost every sector. The plans are profits above all else. Okay. Plus, use that time to get started on a trade or a degree so you're halfway through before you're out and have some structure to your day. As in, that has to be a requirement if you need to know how to do something, even it's just an entry-level job. Okay, I agree. The only problem I have is if there's money for free education as far as like trades and stuff, then it's hard to like, because there's people out that want to be educated and like helped into industries like trades too. So that's sticky. Yes, there should be a re-entry plan that includes learning a skill and then a halfway house agreement on the outside of job placement. That's pretty much the case in many countries. In Sweden, it seems that inmates get therapy and education, according to the Correctional Services website, rehabilitation to make them function in society on release. Still, though, a third of them will return to prison again, sadly. But what are our numbers? What are our numbers in the U.S. for how many people return? There's a word for it, return to jail and prison. I don't think you understand how a 1/3 overall rate is. That's awesome. Okay, so it says a third is a lot better than 3/4, and I bet that comment is about United States rates. I'm betting. Yes, what you're describing is basically the Nordic prison system. They have vacations to freedom, etc., to ease the transition to the real world. Some consider that too lenient. But this is a good system to reintegrate criminals to society and drops the return rate and less repeat offenders. If they're due to get out and they can't handle a weekend or two of freedom, then they're not ready to come out. And I guess that's a little tester. It's kind of nerve-wracking if there's like a violent criminal involved, you know? But if they're due to get out anyways soon, I don't know. Oops. Okay, we'll do one more. This one, off the bat, I'm gonna agree. all time. Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, and Raging Bull are his three masterpieces in my opinion. However, his last great movie was Wolf of Wall Street. His last three movies, Silence, Irishman, and Killer of the Flower Moon, are just boring. They're long and dragged out. The casting is also bad too. He should stop using De Niro for roles he's obviously too old for. DiCaprio played a guy who's supposed to be in his 20s on Killers of the Flower Moon. What do you guys think? I agree. I'm a De Niro fan. I love me some Scorsese. I love me some Leonardo. But the combo ain't doing it for me no more. It ain't doing it for me no more. And I was talking about this when I was telling you how I watched Killers of the Flower Moon, and I went up to go to bed because I was like, I can't take it. There's some good parts and some good acting, but I can't watch this anymore. I have to go to bed. And I had messaged my brother, and I was like, hey, did you watch? Because he's reading a book with a similar name, and it's about kind of a similar thing. That truck out there just started. You know, you guys already know the truck is coming in every video. And he's like, no, because I was just so bored with The Irishman that I just kind of ditched the Scorsese stuff for a while. And I was like, yeah, yes, I feel you. Watching these new Scorsese movies, and so now I'm not getting like some of your guys' probably favorites. It feels like reading a Stephen King book, where I'm like, this is just too much. I don't need all this. I don't need it. It's too much. There's too much detail. There's too much stuff in here that I don't need. There's too much symbolism that I'm just not interested in doing the work of. It's too much. And if you like Stephen King and you like the new Scorsese's, I'm glad you enjoy it. They're still doing great. I mean, millions of people like that. It's just not for me anymore. Okay, somebody said they're more mature, more aged. They're made by someone who's clearly older, less excited, hungry. He makes the stuff that he wants to make now, and he isn't trying to really please the audience the same way Goodfellas and Casino did. It's just a natural progression of an artist. Somebody said, well, clearly he's not trying to please the audience. I guess what's disappointing for me is that with some extra editing, his last few movies might have been great. Yes. If they trimmed some of the fat. Maybe it's just me, but I prefer The Irishman to Killers of the Flower Moon to Casino. Oh, Irishman and Killers of the Flower Moon to Casino. Casino just didn't do it for me. I liked Casino. Shutter Island was definitely a great movie. Agree. Can anyone tell me if Killers of the Flower Moon is worth watching? Somebody said Killers of the Flower Moon is absolutely worth watching. All I can say is that I watched the whole movie without checking the time, and I thought it was good. See? People like it. Okay. And then somebody else said I couldn't get into it for some reason. I love long dialogue heavy movies, but this just dragged for me. No, good movie, but it has no right being anywhere near that long. Would have to be nothing short of a masterpiece to justify that runtime. Yeah, I like Shutter Island. I'm saying after Wolf of Wall Street is when his movies started declining. Every time I watch Shutter Island, I pick up a new piece. Like, I read the book too. I could probably read the book again. I tried to watch Killers of the Flower Moon in theaters solely based off his reputation, and it was such a letdown. I do think it's important to get to the history of events like these. However, this movie was so long and drawn out, it honestly seemed like there was no editing at times. Was it like a 4-hour movie, an hour in, and I was looking for tape for my eyelids? The movie revealed all in the beginning, so the middle to end just was dragging out. Torture. Couldn't finish Killers of the Flower Moon because it was so boring. So, what guys think about Scorsese's new material?